Josh Hasten here, Israel Uncensored on the Land of Israel Network at thelandofisrael.com. It is Monday, April 6, 2020, the 12th of Nisan 578 here in Gush Etzion, Israel. We are getting ready for the holiday of Passover, an unprecedented Passover, perhaps since the times of the times of Egypt. Hold on, my guest is chomping at the bit here. We're going to introduce him in a second. Maybe one of the only times Jews are self-isolating as a result of a pandemic. You could argue there were certainly difficult times throughout Jewish history, whether it's making Pesach during the Shoah, making Pesach during pogroms and massacres and crusades and other things going on throughout Jewish history. But I don't know. Maybe the rabbi, our guest, Rabbi Guy Avihod from Haboydem, secondhand thrift shops in Jerusalem, who does such important work for the community, reaching out to those with mental disabilities, giving the opportunities to go to work. Maybe he has more insight on this, but as far as I know, I mean, this is pretty unprecedented as we are stuck in our homes, and unfortunately there's death and sickness around us. And please God, all those who are coping with corona, who are suffering from corona, will survive and thrive and get better as we head here towards Pesach. So I've already introduced him already. It's been a long time, our scholar in residence for the show. I think we've missed a bunch of holidays, but now is a perfect opportunity here in the springtime with renewal to have back on the program Rabbi Guy Avihod from Jerusalem. Rabbi, welcome back to Israel Uncensored here on the Land of Israel Network at thelandofisrael.com.
Great to be with you, Josh. It's been a while. Wow, it's been a while. It's been a few months already since we spoke.
It's been a while.
It's been a while since we've been on your show. I miss you.
It certainly has, man. I miss you also. And with restrictions in place, I do not know when the next time I will be in Jerusalem is. I understand there's actually a lot of traffic getting to the holy city because police are stopping people. I think justifiably. Maybe some people think it's too much, but police stopping people on the way to Jerusalem. I heard rumors of traffic jams 2-3 hours yesterday getting to Jerusalem, trying to make sure people aren't breaking the rules and not spreading corona. So first of all, how are you? How are you doing? How are you coping with the current reality?
I'm doing amazing. I'm actually really enjoying this time, as it gives me time to sit at home and reflect. My house has never been so clean for Pesach, and never been so clean for Passover. I've never been so ready for Passover in all of my years, because I've been at home for the past 3.5 weeks, quarantined for 2 of them because I came back from the United States, and it's given me a lot of time to sit down and enjoy my family and take a gear down. Usually Passover is our busy time at Haboydem because people drop off all their clothes. This year people have dropped off their clothes also. Maybe we'll talk about it later, but we're unable to process it because of Corona. But this year I've been at home a lot more, enjoying my family. I do my Daf Yomi Shiur every day at 8 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock at night on Zoom, which is an incredible tool that nobody knew anything about a month ago. And it's changed the world and the way that people communicate. And I think that there's a great lesson to be learned about, even in isolation, we're not alone. And how God, when he inflicts us with a plague, he brings the cure first. And I think that cure for being isolated from other people is the ability to sit down. You're in Gush Etzion. I'm in Jerusalem. I may as well have been in New York or Sydney, Australia, and we're sitting and we're talking and we have our communications right. And I think it's a beautiful thing that you can be alone but never lonely. You can be by yourself but never alone. Maybe that's the better way to say it. You know, I used to travel a lot. I've been learning Daf Yomi and teaching for over 20 years now. Every day a daf of the Talmud to anchor me and to know like where my center is, to always come back to learning. And when I used to travel, I always took my little Talmud book, my Gemara. I used to take it with me around the world. And wherever I was, doesn't matter if it was, like I said, Australia or Canada or LA, wherever I am, I used to open the book and I used to be right there with Jewish people. And it gave me a real connection. And as far as I'm concerned, learning the Torah is a real connection. But today we can learn the Torah while seeing people, while conversing with people, which is one level above.
That's absolutely beautiful, Rabbi Guy. And I'm going to tell you where I'm struggling with all of this. And this isn't a therapy session; it's a radio interview. But I see, as you just described, all of the Torah learning, and people are adapting to the realities and are taking all these online courses and Zoom meetings and shiurim and writing Sifrei Torah and all these amazing projects that I see are going on. But, just looking outside my window here, I mean, unfortunately, you have thousands and thousands of people sick here in Israel. You have hundreds of thousands around the world. You have a crazy death rate in places like northern Italy and in New York. I think northern Italy is actually slowing down a little bit, but New York is like the epicenter, Long Island and all these places. And, for us, especially Jewish communities and everyone really, all humanity is going through this struggle. How are you able to, what's the word? Compartmentalize?
Yeah.
What's the word? Help me out here.
Yeah, that's right.
Compartmentalize.
Yeah,
there
right.
you go. Compartmentalize, the situation. Whereas, thank God people are healthy on one hand, are able to continue their lives, even with the restrictions, even with quarantines and isolation. I was also in mandated quarantine for about 4 days because I was in the U.S. And unfortunately, somebody on my plane had corona. So retroactively, I had to go into quarantine to do all this stuff. How are you able to put it in different arenas, and at the same time have sympathy and empathy for those? I'm sure everyone knows somebody who's had the virus or has the virus, or is in different types of conditions, and at the same time continue to, I don't want to say block it out, but not let it affect you psychologically, mentally.
Maybe we can just
keep going.
Maybe we can just say live. We're obligated to live, and our Torah obligates us to live. And I think about my 93-year-old grandmother who lives on her own and has been at home for over a month now, self-isolating from the world, scared of a little virus that nobody can see, scared of her friends, scared of her caretaker, and she's at home, she's taking care of herself. Thank God she's very independent, but with all that independence, she's still by herself. So yes, there's phone, and there's we go and sit, we stand outside her balcony and we see her from far, but it's not the same. And you can see, but tragedy, unfortunately, tragedy is part of life. And one of the blessings and one of the curses of modern life is that we are so interconnected. I spoke before in the intro, I spoke about the blessing of being interconnected, of how we can sit around the world, and I'm sitting in Jerusalem, and I speak to my family in New York or in Los Angeles, and I speak to my friends all over the world, and it's as if I'm right there. Time is not a difference, and space is not a difference. You connect online and everything's good. But there's a real price for that as well, because whatever happens in New York, it's as if it happened right here. It's as if it happens right now. It's as if it's happening in my house. I feel it. I see it. I feel the plight of the people of Italy. I feel the plight of the people in New York. I feel all of this. Now, I'm not there, but since it's the same way that I get, you told me about traffic jams on the way to Jerusalem. I don't know. I haven't gotten out of my house. So I've heard about traffic jams next to my house from the news. The same way that I heard and I felt and I heard the stories of people dying and sick in New York on the news. So as far as I'm concerned, they're both the same distance from me. Right outside my house is New York. Right outside my house is Italy. And it's a real blessing in one way, and it's real hard in another way, how we look and we see. And every person that is sick and every person that dies is a tragedy that we can see and we can feel. But if we look at the numbers of people And if we look at the history of humankind, then we have to somehow realize that there is a tomorrow. And we can't look at yesterday and we can't look at a tragedy today. Like, we have to be empathetic about it, but we can't let it stop us from living. That is the worst thing. If that debilitates us from being able to live, then there's nothing else we can do. I'll tell you a little story. I work in the mental health field, and one of my I used to have a yeshiva for people with mental illness, and one of the students of the yeshiva came up to me and said, "Rabbi, I hear voices." I'm like, "Okay, so?" "No, I hear voices." I said, "Okay, hearing voices is one thing. Do these voices stop you from living? Do they stop you from learning? Do they stop you from interacting with people? If so, it's a bad thing. If not, then it's just part of life. It's part of something we live with." So it's not the tragedy, and we don't have to ignore the tragedy, but what does it do to us? Does it force us to look at life and take it more seriously and move forward? Or does it debilitate us and say, okay, just stay in bed, there's nothing else? If the latter, then we're in trouble, because we don't have the privilege of staying in bed and being down, because then we take down everybody else around us as well. So we have to look into the future while not disrespecting the people who are suffering. We must look into the future, or else there is no future.
That's great advice for people who are perhaps suffering from different mental illnesses or disabilities, especially now in these times.
I think we all are.
But it's also,
I think we all are.
Yeah,
we all are these days.
That's what I was going to say. It applies to everyone now. That advice that you gave, it applies, I think, to all of us now, and I'm sure everyone, in one shape or another, is getting a little stir crazy. I think we've been in this now for about 3.5 weeks of self-imposed quarantine or mandatory quarantine, whatever it is. I mean, we're basically at home, but we need to do what we can to take care of ourselves, whether physically, mentally, have these conversations with people online, stay in touch with family and friends, get a little time outdoors. There's nothing wrong with going on your porch and getting some sun, which somebody explained to me yesterday was very, very important to actually, be out in the sun outdoors. Right. So, but it sounds to me that you're optimistic in terms of the day after tomorrow. In other words, I don't know whether, obviously it's the hand of God in anything we do. And I don't know in what shape that will take, whether it's a vaccine, whether these self-quarantine measures will just kill the virus. It'll have nowhere to go and it'll just die out eventually. I mean, whatever it is, it sounds like you're pretty optimistic that this is not the Armageddon. Maybe this is the beginning of the beginning of redemption we've already had, in my opinion. I mean, it's already started, but perhaps this is another step even further down that road to ultimate redemption. And go ahead and chime on in here about the day after tomorrow.
Either way, whether it solves itself or it's Armageddon, I'm not going to solve it. I'm not going to be the one solve. I'm not finding any cure for the vaccine. I'm telling you, in my house, I'm not finding any cure for the vaccine. Maybe prayer, but if it's Armageddon, it's the end of the world. Also, I'm not doing anything for it or against it, so I'm not worried about one way or another. Worrying about something that may or may not happen in the future is stopping me from acting today. And I can't allow that to happen. And, we speak about, you asked me before how I look at the situation and what I think about the situation and the mental health of people we spoke about. And I think that looking at perspective, getting perspective on the situation is a blessing. And what do I mean? In your intro, you said this is unprecedented. And I chimed in and I said, wait, not unprecedented. This is just like the first Pesach ever. The first Pesach ever, when the Jews were in Egypt, they were told to lock themselves in their house, not to go outside because the plague is outside, to stay within their families, not to invite guests, not to have anybody over. You and your home, you and your children, lock the doors, don't go out, and have Pesach. And it's exactly like it this year. that we have to be only with our core families and we can't go out. We have to be afraid because there is the plague. The plague is outside and we have to be fearful for the lives. And if I look at the fact that there is nothing new under the sun, and over 2,000 years ago, we had the same Pesach, it says, hey, you know how many things we went through in 2,000 years? So this is like a little dot. So this is one part of history, one part that seems terrible right now under the microscope, literally under the microscope also, but it's something else. I heard yesterday something about Corona, which I'm not sure if it's true, but I read it on Facebook, so it must be true, just like everything else.
Yeah, right.
Right. I
Sure.
I heard that the initial part of Corona makes the body react, and then what people die from is the overreaction of the body. When the body overreacts, it goes down to the lungs and then it shuts down the body. And then the body actually doesn't die from the corona, but from the effects of the body of overreacting to the virus. And I think it's a huge lesson that we have to learn, that sometimes what we do, what kills us is the overreaction. And and all these vaccines that we have are vaccines that are meant to stop the overreaction. And if it's meant to stop the overreaction, I think that's what we need to look at ourselves and see, how do we not overreact? Do I go out and buy 300 eggs? Yesterday I tried to bribe somebody to sell me eggs with toilet paper. He's like, are you kidding? You're so March 2020. That's not, who needs toilet paper anymore? Eggs is it. So, and tomorrow there's going to be eggs everywhere. But if we panic and we go crazy and we have to be very careful not to ruin relationships at times of stress. And we have to be very calm and to understand that everybody's stressful and not to overreact, because the overreaction is more dangerous than the act. It's like saying the cover-up is worse than the crime. It's that kind of, since you're a political guy, I allow myself to say that.
That's an important message that you just gave. Now, that definitely does do harm to overreact or to be extra stressful. And I know, just like everyone else, I also have periods where I'm extremely stressed. I never liked going to the supermarket in general. Just too many people and too many aisles and too much balagan, as they say, too much chaos. But now it was always stressful for me just to go to the supermarket. But now even more so, having to wear a mask and gloves and keep distance from people. That being said, and in case you're not aware, that you Rabbi Guy, referring to the egg situation. I mean, we are having an egg shortage here, but of course Israel, which travels around the world picking up stranded Israelis, whether in Melbourne or in Peru or whatnot. I think it was 10 cargo planes. Some have already landed, bringing emergency eggs to Israel for Passover. Emergency eggs. They're on their way over. Some have landed yesterday, and I heard, I don't know if they're true or not. I mean, I heard crazy stories of police having to guard the eggs because people were trying to, it was like Black Friday in America.
Hey,
where people,
you can't make matzah without eggs.
Mob.
You can't make
mob into the stores.
You
can't make cakes for Passover without eggs. You need eggs for the Seder itself. I mean, there's so many different things. The omelets. People rely on, eggs and potatoes are the two biggest things you need on Pesach. But I think just like Bibi was able to sneak out the Iranian secrets there out of Tehran. We're able to sneak 10 cargo planes of eggs. We'll have to think of the name of the operation here in the future. But I want to, we just have a few more minutes. I just want to get to the actual holiday of Pesach. And as you said, you're absolutely right. Unprecedented, perhaps we'll call it the second time.
Right.
In history, as far as we know. I mean, there have been other diseases and whatnot through the ages, polio and other different things.
Probably not
Spanish flu.
Probably not all over the world at the same time.
Right, and so yeah, that's true. But in certain areas, people have been quarantined over Chag. But just overall, going into the Chag, we have 2-3 days about 3 days until Pesach. Tuesday, 2.5 days, and definitely, I would say a Pesach like no other in terms of the fact that we will not be traveling throughout the country visiting the beautiful sites in the land of Israel. The seders will be smaller than usual. People with their nuclear families only at home, and a lot of family time within the house, which, of course, as you said, can be a beautiful thing, spending time with your family. But overall, I want you, if you can, to just give a message for this particular Pesach, this particular Passover, as we're just several days away here getting ready for the holiday, Rabbi.
So many rabbis said that this year we can find leniency more than other years. In times of food shortage, even though one is not allowed to have chametz, leavened bread, no one is not supposed to have leavened bread, including pasta, including other things at home. What we do is we do a sale of the things. Now, a lot of people are very strict, very stringent, not to sell real chametz, not to sell pastas, not to sell breads, not to sell those things. And the rabbi said that this year, even someone who is more strict about these things, this year you shouldn't throw away food. You should sell it so that you can have, and you don't rush over to the supermarket after, because we don't know when this is going to be over. If it's going to be over in a month or it's going to be over in 3 months. We hope for the best, but we have to prepare for the worst. So you can even sell chametz gamur. Another thing is that shouldn't go crazy with cleaning as usual, because the rabbis understand, and the chief rabbis, they understand that there's no, everybody's in the house. Don't start screaming at people, because there's nowhere to run. There's nowhere to hide. So you gotta do what you gotta do. Make sure that you don't eat leavened bread. Don't eat chametz. Only eat matzah over the days of Passover. Only things that are kosher for Pesach. But just put them away and sell them as according to the halacha. But don't go crazy with painting the house and washing everything and going crazy and screaming at the kids. I know friends who for years they haven't eaten bread since Purim. They've eaten bread. If they want to eat bread, it's outside the house. Don't go outside the house. No, maybe find a corner. Maybe do what you need to do to get Pesach right. I'm not saying to forgo Pesach, but to do it with the mind frame that everybody's stressed these days. And when everybody's stressed, then we need to take our foot off the gas a little bit and to look a little bit more at the meaning of things than at the actions of things. The actions, if you look at the halacha, it's not very tough. Sweep the house, make sure everything's clean, that's it. But we want to do more, so do more. But don't let doing more come on the expense of your family members. Make sure that you're sensitive to those things.
Some good advice from Rabbi Guy Avihod, who runs Haboydem with 2 convenient locations in Jerusalem, one in Talpiot next to the Hadar Mall, and also in the center of town, Kikar Tzion in Jerusalem, who does such amazing work for the community.
Join me in hoping that we'll come back and have those stores running, because right now we have to close them. And
please God,
very uncertain times, but we hope to come back as soon as we can.
Please God, we'll come back. You'll come back. We'll come back stronger than ever. In the near future, I want to wish you and your entire family a Chag Kasher V'Sameach, a happy Passover, a meaningful Passover. And please God, Klal Yisrael and the rest of the world will get through these hard times together. And let's talk again. We got other holidays coming up right after Passover. We got Shavuot. We have Lag BaOmer.
Excellent.
We have other holidays. So I love the background, by the way. I love all your books back there, Rabbi Guy Avihod.
Thank you.
How can people get in touch with you if they want to learn more about your work?
Just Google Guy Avihod and they'll find a way to contact me, I'm sure.
They'll find you. So, Chag Kasher V'Sameach. And that's a wrap on today's show. My name is Josh Hasten here in beautiful Gush Etzion, where the birds are chirping and it's a little quieter than usual. But that's because I am hoping everyone is following the rules and everyone's in their homes doing what the government says, whether you like it or not. Now's the time not to take chances unnecessarily. Follow the guidelines. Stay at home, as the hashtag indicates, and that's being used now all over the world. I want to wish all the listeners out there, Chag Kasher V'Sameach, have a wonderful holiday. And as the rabbi said, even with the situation, we can use it in a positive way, use it to our advantage, stay home, be with your family, enjoy the family now more than ever. Get in touch with me during the week, josh@thelandofisrael.com, on Facebook, Joshua Hasten, or Josh Hasten, Israel Advocacy and Journalism, on Twitter at Josh Hasten, on Instagram as well, at Josh Hasten. And everyone out there, forgot to shout out to Binyamin Bresky, engineer extraordinaire, for making all this happen. Tabitha Epstein, who does all the work behind the scenes here at the Land of Israel Network. Everyone out there in the wonderful world of ours, be safe, be safe. Shalom, shalom from Gush Etzion, just outside of Jerusalem, the eternal capital of the Jewish people. Chag Kasher V'Sameach.
Ready for the most important Passover of your life? Tune in as Jeremy Gimpel talks about the secret patterns of redemption encoded in the Passover story.
We are for the first time celebrating Passover as we did in Egypt. There's no big Passover seders. There's no extended family, no friends. Each insular family is behind closed doors with a plague outside. And all we have is our wife and our children and our mezuzahs serving as our protection at our front door.
Check out the full show on the Land of Israel Network at thelandofisrael.com.